I want to thank you for the invitation to be today's guest speaker for the Rotary Club of Best Nassau. During this 50th anniversary of independence, I selected the theme, securing our nationhood for a new generation. I am mindful that Rotary is a non-partisan organization and will therefore be guided by this principle. Let me speak of securing our nationhood for current and successive generations. We could speak about economic and social development in areas such as job creation, business investment, fiscal responsibility, crime, healthcare, education, and other areas. Today, however, I wish to focus on one area of national security, which is one of the primary responsibilities of government. I wish to focus on illegal immigration. To secure the Bahamas for successive generations, we must ensure the viability and resilience of our culture, our heritage, and our way of life. Because this time is short, I will not repeat in great detail the nature of the challenges, a number of which are well known to us. Instead, I wish to offer specific and targeted policy prescriptions for your consideration. Rotarians, it is the wisdom of the ages and the practical advice of the medical profession from inception that prevention is always better than cure. The same applies to crime, it applies to illegal immigration also. Another word for prevention is deterrence. The challenge of illegal migration, particularly from the Republic of Haiti, is complex and long-standing. Today, Haiti is in the grip of extreme economic, political, and social turmoil and crisis. There is rampant gang violence, all resulting in a mass exodus from the Republic. By some reports, nearly 3,000 people died last year because of these gangs. Our southern neighbor is in a state of collapse. We are on the front line of this collapse. I remind you that Haiti has a population of about 11.4 to 12 million individuals, and we in the Bahamas has a population of 400,000. Therefore, you can see the challenges we can face. The Bahamas must be a nation of compassion and a nation of care, committed to human rights and the rule of law. Correspondingly, our small country must be vigilant in securing our borders and our future. I agree with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who recently stated, we need to work on long-lasting solutions that will restore order and security, allow for essential aid to flow to those who urgently need it, and create the conditions for free and fair elections so that the Haitian people can live in a stable and democratic society. There is more we can and must do in the area of deterrence. Prime Minister Trudeau suggested two areas. First, he announced, as noted in press reports, that Canada will deploy Royal Canadian Navy vessels off the coast of Haiti in the coming weeks. He added that the vessels will conduct surveillance, gather intelligence, and maintain a maritime presence off the coast of Haiti. The intelligence gathering efforts are intended to help to address the ever-worsening gang violence. In this vein, I suggest that it is time for the Bahamas to dramatically increase our intelligence cooperation and program in the Bahamas and in Haiti. We need to help gather and to act on timely intelligence to deter human trafficking, to protect our borders and the lives of those put at risk by traffickers. The Bahamas should significantly increase our investments in surveillance and intelligence assets, both technological and human, within the Bahamas and elsewhere. We need to collaborate with the United States, Caribbean, Canada, France, and others in the collection of intelligence which may gather information on traffickers and help deter more migrants. While we need to be careful how we publicly discuss sources and methods of intelligence, let me say emphatically that there is more that can be done in both areas. Second, Prime Minister Trudeau and others understand a historic problem in Haiti. Last week, Mr. Trudeau announced that Canada is imposing additional sanctions on two in the Haitian elite who are noted in a press report provide financial or operational support to gangs and are inflicting violence on the Haitian people. Though I wish to be circumspect in my remarks, let us be clear. Haitian gangs do not operate and survive in isolation. Many in the wealthy Haitian elite, both economic and political, must be brought to the table to discuss a path forward for Haiti. Elites, like all human beings, responds to incentives and sanctions. The international community, particularly the United States, France, Canada, and other powers, should, with greater earnestness and intensity, discuss strategies to potentially sanction various elements of the Haitian elite in order to help stabilize Haiti. And such sanctions might include economic and banking measures, travel restrictions, and other sanctions that will impact all those who help facilitate gang violence or who use certain gangs for certain purposes. For this to work, broad and coordinated sanctions are needed on all members of the Haitian elite who are part of the problem. The issues in Haiti will only be resolved when the elite who truly rule the country are made to change the long-standing dysfunction from which they profit. The international community must send a clear message that if there is no change, members of the Haitian elite who are a part of the problem will be isolated. We know the history of Haiti and its unjust and unfair treatment by world powers since the Haitian Revolution. Haiti justly deserves various forms of reparation. Correspondingly, the unjust and indifferent treatment of ordinary Haitians by Haitian elites must also be addressed. Rotarians, our southern borders and defenses must be dramatically bolstered, including Royal Bahamas Defense Force bases in Inagua and Ragged, an expanded detention center with permanent health care and judicial facilities is urgently needed in Inagua. This should include more defense force and intelligence personnel. And the long-standing problem of corrupt practices in the issuance of visas and other documentation must also be addressed here in our homeland. Reform of the Immigration Department and immigration processes has been a challenge for successive governments. Major political parties must collaborate in the national interest on extensive immigration reform. As a fair nation, we must also regularize those who should legitimately be granted permanent residency or citizenship. This has been an ongoing challenge since independence 50 years ago. Another form of deterrence must involve sending clear messages to those who might wish to illegally migrate here to the Bahamas. The brazen occupation of Crown land by illegal immigrants sends a consistently wrong message and is profoundly unfair to Bahamians. While there were measures taken by previous governments to address the prevalence of shanty towns in the Bahamas, fuller and more comprehensive measures are needed. Accordingly, as Prime Minister, I appointed the Shantytown Task Force that was chaired by then Minister of Labor, John Folks. I thank Mr. Folks, his cabinet colleagues, public officers, and NGO representatives who served on that task force. The introduction and executive summary of the task force dated May 2018 noted, January 2018 marked the government's commitment toward a significant social policy position and reform that would humanely regulate and elevate the living conditions of persons residing in shanty towns. Upon cabinet approval, the Ministry of Labor led a multi-agency secretarial task force to execute this reform. The reform initiative would result in the demolition of shantytown structures that were not compliant with national building codes and involves a mechanism to identify regulated mainstream housing options for relocation and integration of affected individuals and families. In a 2018 affidavit, Minister Folks noted in 2013, the Department of Environmental Health Services produced a report entitled Shantytown Project 2013. The report outlined on page 6 in the earlier that it was observed that most, if not all, of these shanty towns are on government crown land issued to Bahamian families for the purpose of agriculture. As noted in the first survey conducted 2 years ago, that is in 2011, these communities are informally organized, overcrowded with illegal, poorly constructed dwellings, improper or no sewage disposal systems, compounded with derelict vehicles and garbage accumulation, which could rise the breeding of rodents, mosquitoes, and other disease-carrying vectors. Let me reiterate, It was observed that most, if not all, of these shanty towns are on government crown land issued to Bahamian families for the purpose of agriculture. The task force described the isolation and illegality of shanty towns. Of the households surveyed in terms of utilities, 10% of households have cable television. 22% of households have indoor running water. And 30% report having indoor flush toilet facilities. 47%, or 200 households, have electricity with two predominant sources of electricity. Generators comprising 54%, and BPL BBC comprising 55%. We also took note of those in the shanty towns with disabilities. It was inhumane, totally inhumane, for the Bahamas to allow the conditions and problems in the shanty towns to continue. The death, devastation, and destruction within shanty towns on Abaco because of the ravages of Hurricane Dorian demonstrated our worst fears. We respected the order of the courts regarding a request for an injunction on removing shanty towns. Still, we respected, but we were deeply disappointed by the injunction with which we profoundly disagreed. It is good that the injunction has been lifted. We would have been further ahead on this matter had the injunction not been put in place in the first instance. I can say with confidence that in the pace that we were moving, all shanty towns within Abaco would have been removed. It is now incumbent on the current administration to act with dispatch on this matter. All illegal shanty towns in the Bahamas must be cleared as quickly as possible following the processes of the law. This should include mitigation efforts and targets and timelines for action, which I will say more about at another time. Ladies and gentlemen, Rotarians, every nation has a right, indeed a responsibility, to secure its borders, to ensure the rule of law, and to provide for the general welfare of its people. The Bahamas has welcomed many generations of migrants from Haiti and the wider Caribbean, many of whom have made a home in our Commonwealth and who have contributed to our nation. There should be no need for prejudice or discrimination of any sort in our Bahamas. Even as we have become a home for others, we must secure and protect our homeland for successive generations. Our sovereignty is rooted in our Constitution and in international laws. We must therefore be vigorous and resolute in safeguarding our Bahamas for the Bahamian people for generations to come. I thank you very much for your kind attention. God continue to bless each and every one of us. God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Parliament, Mr. Minnis, and I invite anybody for questions or comments.